Good evening, and welcome to the Twiggs County Board of Education meeting. Thank you to our in-person and online communities and stakeholders for joining us this evening. On behalf of the Board of Education, we would like to extend a special thank you to Ms. Debbie Goodman of the Twiggs County Senior Center staff for hosting the fourth installment of our board meeting tour. It is my pleasure to call the Twiggs County Board of Education meeting to order. Today is June 22nd, 2021, and the time is 6:06 p.m. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we will have prayer, and it will be led by Pastor Dan Wright of Jeffersonville Baptist Church. Pastor Wright, you pray in your own way.
Let's pray. Father, as we come to you this time, this hour, just thank you so much for this community that you've given us. Community that desire and a love for our school system, where our kids thrive. Father, I thank you for Dr. Bullard, who you brought here to lead the school system to a new day and a new era. Thank you for the board members that you divinely appointed to support him and to support our schools and support our community. Most of all, thank you also for our community stakeholders who are invested in the success of our kids and our school system. I lift up to you pastors all across this community, elected leaders who desire what is good for our kids and our school system. Because we love our community, we're praying for our community. And our superintendent, and our school board, our school system, and our community know that we are praying for them. Love you, thank you in Christ's name.
Amen. Amen. At this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Meeting agenda Tuesday, June 22nd, 2021.
So moved.
Motion has been properly made by Ms. Blackshear. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Mr. Rouse. Is there any discussion? Should there be no discussion or concerns, we will accept tonight's meeting agenda as printed. There's no discussion. Once again, I know you by saying aye, raising your right hand. If you approve this motion? Aye. No opposes? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. First on our agenda tonight, we have approval of minutes for the June 8th, 2021 BOE regular session. Board members, I give you a little time just to review it as we have received our packages in advance, and we know that we have already looked over them. Thank you. At this time, I'll call for a motion to approve the June 8, 2021 BOE regular session minutes.
So moved.
Motion has been properly made by Ms. King. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Rouse. Is there any discussion? Should there be no discussion, I'll know you by approving. Again, this motion is to approve the June 8th, 2021 BOE regular session. All right. I'll know you by saying aye, raising your right hand if you approve this motion. Aye. Aye. No opposes? That motion carries unanimously. Approval of June 22nd, 2021 BOE. I'm sorry. Thank you. Ethics statement by Ms. Blackshear.
Thank you.
In accordance with regulations set forth by the Georgia Ethics Commission, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflict of interest and interest of such conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest? Seeing none, Mr. Chair, we will proceed with our agenda.
Thank you, Madam Blackshear. This time, we'll entertain board comments and remarks, and we will begin tonight's board comments with the district representative for District 1, Mr. Mike Rouse, Vice Chair, Tweets County Board of Education. Mr. Rouse.
Thank you, Chairman Harris.
Thank you.
I'd like to say to the stakeholders, District 1 and all the districts, glad to see you out to support Dr. Bullock, to get to meet him and support the board. I see you got representation here from the county commission, concerned citizen, the city council, and I hope I didn't miss anyone, but for whoever you are that you're here, we're glad to have you. And as we always say, one team, one goal. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Rouse. Any other board members who would like to make comments or remarks tonight?
Yes, we had a health fair last Friday. It was a good turnout, and it was wonderful to see all the medical people that was there and the other people that was come out to help us out. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Ms. Stokes. Dr. Bullock, who sponsored and hosted that health fair?
The Live Well Twigs was the sponsor for the health fair, and the developmental authority supported them with that effort as well. And I agree with Ms. Stokes, it was well attended. I believe we had over 20 different vendors, medical vendors in attendance, and I think they were still pulling out more tables. They spoke very highly of the event, of the turnout of the community, of the school itself, the beauty of the gym at JES, and we're looking forward to scheduling the second annual event next year.
Thank you, Dr. Bullard. Listen, and while we're making acknowledgments, I'll be remiss not to acknowledge former board chair of Tweets County Board of Education, Mr. Sampson. Thank you for being here. And a retired educator, Dr. Becky Curry, thank you for being in attendance tonight. Also, our partner as we work on progress right across the street. And if you haven't looked over there, you need to make sure you step outside before it gets too dark and take a look at the great work that's being done with the partnership of Mr. Charlie Rich Stevens, class of 1969, by way of our board member who leads this team is Rhonda King. Mr. Bacon, thank you so much, Dr. Bullock, for allowing this project to proceed. As it is more than what we expected. So thank you so much for your ability to see beyond the now and see what that yard across the street can bring us. So we're looking forward to the continued partnership. And thank you again for all of our faculty and our staff for being in attendance tonight. We appreciate you for the sacrifice of time as you've had a long day. So thank you as always for being in attendance with us as we journey through the business of Tweets County Board of Education, as we are one team, one goal, striving for excellence, one child, one opportunity, every time. Thank you so much. All right, now that the formalities are out of the way, we will move to the superintendent's comments and remarks, and we will move through this lengthy agenda following him.
Well, Mr. Chair, I just want to again thank Ms. Denise Goodman for opening up the Twigs Senior Center for us. I understand that from Ms. Sampson, who's been my tour guide in the different districts as we have gone around the community. She's taken us down the side roads, the front roads, the back roads to help me get to know my community. And I want to thank her. I learned that Ms. Goodman is one of only 4 of the leaders of this center, and that she's been the longest standing, and she has done a phenomenal job. She's getting ready to open her center back up to the seniors on the 6th of next month. So I want to announce that for any of the seniors that did not know that the center will be reopened for you to come and participate on the 6th of next month. But again, thank you, Ms. Goodman, and to the Senior Center here of Twigs County.
That's all?
Yes, sir, that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Bullock. All right. At this time, we will enter into our business agenda. Business agenda item A, approval of policy BCBI. This is an action item presented by our very own superintendent, Dr. Mac Bullard.
Thank you very much. We have two policies that will be read to us for our second reading by Mr. Collier McKenzie from Jones Cork, our legal agent for our school district. These were policies required to us by law here in the state of Georgia. So we are now at our second reading, and I'll turn it over to Mr. McKenzie.
Hello, I'm glad to be here tonight. Is this on? Yep. The first one up on the agenda you'll see is policy BCBI. This came before the school board because of a change in law that's effective July 1st, which requires the school board have a policy that there be a public comment period with no more than 24 hours advance notice of somebody wanting to give a comment. The school district previously had a BCBI policy that required, I think, 5 days in advance notice. So this is a slight change, but one that's for the benefit of the public and their participation in school board meetings. That policy was presented for first reading at a meeting in May and is as an information item and is now an action item for the board to adopt it at this time.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie, Attorney McKenzie of Jones Court. We also had the opportunity to listen to this at our GSBA training.
Yes, sir.
And so we have the knowledge and have discussed this policy change. Is there any discussion or questions about this policy? All right, at this time, I will call for a motion to approve the policy BCBI as it has been presented to us as information and now tonight is action.
I make the motion to approve policy BCBI.
Motion has been properly made by Ms. Blackshear. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. King. Any discussion? No discussion. I know you by approving this motion by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposers? No opposers. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. McKenzie, for that policy BCBI approval tonight, June 22nd. All right. Business agenda item B, approval of policy GBIA. This is an action item, again, by Dr. Bullard.
Again, Mr. McKenzie is going to present this policy as well that has been mandated to us by the state. So I'll turn it over to him at this time.
Absolutely. This one is, as they both said, policy GBIA, which also came before the board because of a change in law effective July 1st to OCGA section 20-2-989.7A2. This has to do with teacher evaluation appeals for a performance rating of unsatisfactory or ineffective, which the state legislature has now provided for. The school district will need to present something to GSBA showing it's been adopted before July 1st, which we'll have time to do and all that. Any questions? I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Board members, do we have any questions?
I just want to make sure I know, at one time, we wasn't in compliance. We have to make sure that they're on the website.
Correct, and we have information, I'll get to Dr. Bullard about exactly where to send it to, the person to send it to, and
And with both of these items, Ms. Blackshear, Dr. Bullock will make sure that we'll update both policies on our website in real time, as we want the public to have access and knowledge of these policy changes. Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Any other board member comments or questions? If there should be no more further discussion, I apologize. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to approve policy GBIA presented tonight in June 22nd. board meeting.
I move that motion.
Motion been properly made by Ms. Blackshear. May I have a second? Second by Ms. King. Any discussion? Should there be no discussion, I know you by accepting this motion, approving this motion by raising your hand or saying aye. Aye. Any opposes? No opposes. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Bullitt. Thank you, Attorney McKenzie. All right. Business agenda item C, first reading of policy DIB, capital asset. This is an information item being presented by our CFO, Mr. James Austin. Good evening, Mr. Austin.
Good evening. Good evening, Board, Vice Chair, Superintendent Dr. Bullitt, constituents in person and virtually. I want to present the first reading of policy DIB, capital asset, as we've had this policy in our manual since 2009. However, due to some changes that the Government Accounting Standards Board suggested, we'll make an amendment to this policy. But before I talk about the policy, I want to remind you all of who we are. We're a school district with vision, generating excellence, one team, one goal, with a mission to inspire, challenge, and prepare all students to compete globally. What you have before you is the capital asset policy. And what is a capital asset or assets is what we physically own, or an intangible asset such as software that we own. It has a particular threshold that we have to abide by, in this case, $10,000. Anything over $10,000 has to be reported on our financial statements. This policy addresses any concerns that the auditors presented. The process that we took in order to ensure that our policy was abiding by all state, federal, and local regulations was to ensure that we receive recommendations directly from our auditors of best practices across the state. With that, we have adopted generally accepted accounting principles that we are mandated to abide by. And as you look through this particular policy, we have one of the GASB statements is called GASB 42 as it relates to impairment. Also, insurance recoveries. These are some of the items in GASB 51, intangible assets, as I explained, are things that we do not physically touch in our hand. And we had to place these in the policy due to the auditor's recommendations. So this is the first reading of this policy. It will be posted for 30 days for public review and input, and the following 30 days after its initial reading, we'll bring it back for approval. Any questions or concerns about the capital asset policy?
Board members, do we have any questions for Mr. Austin? If not, thank you, Mr. Austin, and we will hear the reading of this policy again for approval on what date?
Be the last board meeting in July.
July 27th.
July 27th, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Thank you. All right. Business agenda item D. This is the first reading of policy EEE. This is wellness information item. I think Mr. Austin will be presenting this as well.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. So policy EEE, I remember this policy because I think about eat, eat, eat. It's a school nutrition policy. So as it relates to that, I want to again remind you all of who we are, because this will be a very intentional thing for us, that we generate excellence, one team, one goal, and we have a mission to aspire, challenge, and prepare all students to compete globally. One of the ways we prepare students to compete is to make sure they have a nutritious meal. This policy outlines nutrition education, physical activity, nutrition promotion, nutrition guidelines, smart snack guidelines, other school-based activities, sharing of foods, goals. The reason we're bringing this policy back is because we need to account for COVID. As we have talked about in our summer school setting, we are doing mobile meals to where we're going into the community to feed students, and we have to ensure we're following CDC guidelines. So this policy addresses or make the adjustment for CDC protocol. That was required from the school nutrition federal side of the house, and they recommended that that is included in the policy. And just to read, that COVID-19 adjustment is for virtual physical education at home. CDC guidelines such as masks, gloves, and sanitizer, and mobile meals. So we're ensuring that we're in accordance with what they have recommended. Everything else has remained the same. Any questions, concerns about the policy EEE? And again, this is the first reading, July 27th. It will be brought back for the second appearance and approval.
Board members, do we have any questions, Mr. Austin? If not, thank you, Mr. Austin. Business agenda item E. This is contracted services. This is an action item presented by the Director of Special Education, Mr. Brian Howell.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Howell.
All right, good evening, Board Chairman Harris, Vice Chair, Mr. Ross, Dr. Bullock, board members, community members, face and virtually. Before we get started, we'll talk about our vision, who we are. Our vision is generating excellence, one team, one goal. Mission to inspire, challenge, and prepare all students to compete globally. On June 8th, we presented information for contracted services, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and school psychologists for FY22. It is a recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the following: Risa Iluma for physical therapy, Haynes Therapy Group for occupational therapy, Speech Therapy Unlimited for speech services, and Dr. William Evans for school psychologist. Any questions?
Board members, do we have any questions for Mr. Howell? No questions at this time. Dr. Bullock, what is your recommendation?
Mr. Chair, my recommendation is that the board approve those contracted services as read by Mr. Howell.
Board members, we've heard the superintendent's recommendation for contract services. I have a motion at this time to approve the contracted services presented by Mr. Howell.
I move that motion.
Motion's been properly made by Ms. Beckstrom. Have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Rouse. Any discussion? No discussion. I know you by accepting this motion as recommended by our superintendent and Mr. Howell by raising your hand or saying aye. Aye. Any opposers? No opposers. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Howell.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Business agenda item F, Education Resources Program Offerings. This is an action item presented by Mr. Brian Howell.
Good evening again. Once again, we'll tell who we are. Our vision is generating excellence, one team, one goal. Mission to inspire, challenge, and prepare all students to compete globally. Also, on June 8th, we presented information for education associates, job-ready and life-ready curriculum for FY22. It is a recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the purchase of the education associates job-ready, life-ready curriculum at a cost of $44,155. Any questions?
Could you give us a little, I know you gave us some information on it last time, but we got some new people in here. Could you give us some more information on that?
Yes, ma'am. This was our curriculum that we're going to use for our resource students, our at-risk students, and students that's in our CTAE program. This allows students to get additional job training and transition service that we'll need from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade. So not only they can use it in one particular classroom, they can use it throughout the whole school. if we purchase this program right here, we're able to not only use just for 1 year, but continue because we will own this whole program. And this is something that's been vetted nationally and through our research district. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Blacksher. Are there any other questions for Mr. Howell? All right, should there be no further discussion, Superintendent Bullard, what is your recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I recommend that the board approve the purchase of all of our educational resources programs as presented by Mr. Howell.
Ms. Board members, we've heard Dr. Bullard's recommendation and we've heard Mr. Howell's presentation. As for a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to purchase educational resources program offerings.
So moved.
Motion's been properly made by Ms. King. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Blacksher. Any further discussion? Should there be no discussion, I'll know you by accepting this motion by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Any opposers? No opposers. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Howell. At this time, we'll have business agenda item G. This business agenda item is Virtual Academy. This is an information item being presented by Dr. Griffin Stewart, Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board Chair Harris, Vice Chair Mr. Rouse, Superintendent Dr. McBullard, board members, our face-to-face, as well as our virtual listeners. It brings me great pleasure to share our plan for addressing a virtual school option for students. But before I share this information, I have to tell you who we are, or who are we. Our vision is generating excellence, one team, one goal. Our mission is to inspire, challenge, and prepare all students to compete globally. What is our why for our virtual option? TWIC's K-12 enrollment for the 2020-21 school year was 710 students. We had a total of 606 face-to-face students with 104 virtual students. If you look, you will see that Jeffersonville Elementary School, we had 22 students who were virtually consistently throughout the year last year. And then Twiggs Middle, we had 30 students. In the high, we served 52 students. So we had a total of 104 students. Why virtual programs? They help re-engage at-risk students, recover lost enrollments, and the funding associated with them gives us an opportunity to expand summer school offerings and address teacher shortage. Our target group, we are targeting 6th through 12th graders. A parent survey went out on June the 18th, and it will close on July the 2nd. And the survey is just an interest survey. We want to see what students are interested in participating in a virtual option this upcoming school year. After we see what students are interested, it will be about selection and setting students up for success. So once we see who those students are, we would do some data digging. We would look at their student attendance from the 2021 school year, their grades from last year. Did they take the assessments, the Georgia milestones, the STAR, right score, and then, of course, teacher input. Because we know that if students are going to work virtually and they agree to that option, they have to have some self-efficacy and some discipline to complete the program. And so we want to be able to say, these are our students that we're addressing virtually, but they can be successful. The curriculum that we will use for virtual learning is Edgenuity, and it offers standards-aligned video-based curriculum for middle and high school blended learning environments. The program allows educators to customize the curriculum for their students who monitor their own progress while completing lessons, assignments, and interactive activities. I want to really stress that this is a projected staff needs for virtual learning. And so it just depends on how many students we serve. But if we serve the projected enrollment, we would address 11 teachers. Those teachers would still teach full-time, face-to-face at JES and Twigs Middle and High. And they would serve as a learning coach for students to address their needs during their planning period, as well as a time after school. Those teachers selected will receive a $6,000 stipend. The first stipend will be assigned December 2021, and pending that they've met our attendance and grade requirements for students. And the last portion will be awarded in May, again pending that the grades, attendance, and our requirements have been met by the teacher. But let's talk about the benefits for Twigs County School District. We had 104 virtual students served, and one FTE generates $2,700 minimum for one student. So 104 times 2,700 generates $280,000 in FTE funding. So if we think about it, we will take a projected $66,000 in human capital. Those would be our teachers serving those virtual students, and it would generate $280,000 FTE. So we want to make sure that we can keep our FTE funding. What would be our next steps after the student selection process? We would develop the Twigs virtual handbook for parents and students in conjunction with our middle and high school counselor, as well as input from the administration. Host a parent and student information session to share virtual expectations and next steps. And in the event a parent can attend the information session, we will schedule appointments for students and parents who can attend. Our staff members will receive training, lastly, on ingenuity. Professional learning is very important, and so training will be provided for those teachers selected after we see the interest from the survey. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns? That concludes my report for virtual learning.
Thank you, Dr. Griffin Stewart. At this time, we'll proceed to business agenda. Item H, iReady Math. This is an action item presented again by Dr. Griffin Stewart.
Good evening, Board Chair Harris, Mr. Harris, Vice Chair, Mr. Rouse, Superintendent, Dr. McBullard, board members, all of our face-to-face community partners, as well as our online listeners. I am excited to share information about iReady Mathematics. But before I can share this information, who are we? Our vision is generating excellence, one team, one goal. Our mission is to inspire, challenge, and prepare all students to compete globally. iReady Classroom Mathematics. What is our why for iReady Mathematics Supplemental Resource? Educational Epiphany is our current instructional framework in all content areas. The framework provides an outline of standards in a gradual release format. The framework also includes resources, but because of the scope of work in teaching math instruction, there is a need for additional resources. Teachers need additional support in terms of teaching the Math Georgia Standards of Excellence to the intent and rigor of the standards. In Dr. Bullard's 90-day plan, data shows that 54% of our teacher workforce is between 1 to 10 years, with a portion being a TAP or strategic waiver teacher. The data speaks to the need for supplemental resources to support teachers in delivering rigorous math instruction. At a previous board meeting, there was data presented regarding learning loss that students experience during this COVID interruption. And that data spoke to a need for additional math supplemental resources. We have our preliminary Georgia milestones data. However, this data has not been officially released. Our primary data indicate a need for additional supplemental resources to support math instruction. I will be following up with the Georgia Milestones summative data review as soon as results are official. So what I want to do now is pause at this time and share just a quick video clip of just information and an overview regarding the delivery of instruction that you would see for by teachers for students.
Receiving a top rating from edreports.org, Ready Classroom Mathematics is a K-8 comprehensive mathematics program that empowers all students to own their learning through discourse-based instruction, provides practice that matches the rigor of the standards, and supplies teachers with actionable data to help differentiate instruction. In print and online, the student work text is a 2-volume write-in student edition, combining both lesson instruction and practice and problem solving into one resource. Students have access to a wealth of resources through their student digital experience, including the online student bookshelf. The student bookshelf houses the online student work text and offers multiple functionality tools such as note-taking, highlighting, text-to-speech, and an online calculator. To help with problem-solving strategies, your students will find a suite of digital math tools. These tools are designed to aid students as they explore concepts and deepen their conceptual understanding. In grades 6 through 8, students will have access to digital math tools powered by Desmos that will allow them to explore concepts using the graphing calculator, scientific calculator, and geometry tools. Interactive learning games are available for students in grades K through 8 and show students the visual and creative nature of math. Based on growth mindset research, the interactive learning games build math fluency and conceptual understanding in a highly interactive and engaging way for all students. Teachers can assign students interactive practice with technology-enhanced items to reinforce understanding. Students receive immediate, meaningful feedback to keep them on track. And to continue the math conversation at home, the Family Resource Center includes access to a unit-level video and a family letter for each lesson that comes in multiple languages. All assets within the student dashboard are accessible on laptops, desktop computers, and Apple-supported iPads. For the teacher's guide has everything needed to support all students and facilitate our effective discourse routine. Teachers have a print teacher guide, and an online version is included as part of the teacher digital experience. The teacher digital experience includes access to the teacher toolbox, digital comprehension checks, and learning games reports. The teacher toolbox equips every teacher with the full range of K-8 mathematics resources, regardless of what grade they teach, for immediate use with students who are performing below, on, or above grade level. Some of the resources within the toolbox include interactive video tutorials that can be used to introduce or review a concept during whole class instruction. Or these tutorials can be used for students to practice what they know to reinforce understanding. Fluency and skills practice for every lesson. Math Center activities allowing for differentiated small group work on the same concept. And unit games provide fun practice for every unit as students work collaboratively. Digital comprehension checks are online assessments comparable to lesson quizzes and unit assessments. They are built to assess understanding of grade level content and are auto-graded and generate reports that identify student progress, common misconceptions, and suggestions for next steps for differentiation. With Ready Classroom Mathematics, it's all about getting young people to talk about math, because when students do the thinking and talking, they are able to better process, synthesize, and retain ideas, leading to greater understanding. Students are guided by the 6 simple steps in the Try It, Discuss It, Connect It routine. It's effective, it's powerful, and it works. And to enhance math talk in the classroom, discourse cards available in both English and Spanish help drive meaningful conversations between students. Since Ready Classroom Mathematics includes hands-on activities, grade-level manipulative sets are available through our partnership with Hand to Mind. Finally, the adaptive diagnostic is your best way to guarantee that data guides differentiated classroom instruction. Valid, reliable, and already used by over 7 million students across the country, the diagnostic provides reports with clear next steps for instruction for every student and groups of students with like needs, ensuring that teachers have the information they need to address learning needs in prerequisite standards and provide additional challenge for students who need it. The data is intuitive and supports learning for every child in the classroom, no matter their grade or domain grade placement. The Ready Classroom Mathematics program supports instruction, practice, differentiation, and assessment. All resources were designed to work together seamlessly, helping teachers provide rigorous, targeted instruction for every student. To learn more, please reach out to your Curriculum Associates representative.
So that was just a little background information about the iReady Classroom Mathematics. What I love about the mathematics is blended. So students will actually have a book. A resource online. So I'd like to work with a paperback copy. Both is okay. So what would be the cost for our K-8 grades? If you look, you'll see the quote breakdown where we would get the iReady and the Ready set. The list cost is $13,920, but our net price would be $12,480. Then our toolbox, all of that will come at no cost this year. And then the Ready Together, you see the list cost, but there is no cost there. So professional development would be provided. The list cost is $12,000. It would be $10,500. So the list total would be $40,989. But because of our savings, we would spend $22,980 to serve K-8 students. So what about the sustainability plan? How will we fund this resource? Through our American Rescue Funds for the next 3 years, from 22 to 2024. And then after the American Rescue Funds are depleted, we would use our title funds. It's one thing to share a video with you and the cost, but what about the experience? So for the past 2 years, I had the experience of working with iReady Mathematics. And my experience included engaged with this resource for the past 2 years. Math teachers enjoyed attending professional learning sessions because the information was presented in small chunks. Teachers had time to practice with the software as well as the paperback materials. Student data reports were very easy to read and understand. Students are able to easily navigate through the software at home and school. Parent-friendly electronic platform and print materials. So I took it a step further because I have experience with it. But then I also asked Ms. Woodley, who serves as the assistant principal for the middle and high, because when she served as a math teacher, she also experienced iReady. And she said the following: easy for teachers to follow, consumable books for students, a text in hand, toolbox component, address remediation, and that teachers can customize assignments for students through My Path. And then I talked with Ms. Reese Jenkins, because at JES, They currently have some pilot books, and so teachers are using this resource for summer school because we wanted some teacher input. And so every teacher was given an opportunity during the summer to engage with the printed text. Students engaged, it sparked student interest. Ms. Jenkins also shared that it increased the level of rigor, and there was a healthy discourse for students during while we were doing summer school. Recent iReady data reveals 78% increase in growth, either through student scale score or grade level equivalent. So that's what they're seeing right now just through the pilot. Access to teacher resource component helped teachers facilitate small groups. Information was there, and what's most important, that it was very scripted and it was easy for teachers to access. And so our next steps would be to order the iReady material for K-8 math classrooms and professional development, set dates for training. We want to make this a part of our, when teachers return for pre-planning, we want to already have that scheduled. Do we have any questions or concerns at this time? It is a recommendation. The board approves purchasing iReady math supplemental resources for K through 8th grade students in the amount of $22,980 for the 2021-22 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Griffin Stewart. No need to ask Dr. Bullock, what's your recommendation? Board members, we've heard the presentation in 2 sittings of iReady math, and tonight we're seeking approval. Board members, may I have a motion to approve the recommendation from our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Griffin Stewart, to purchase iReady math?
I move that motion.
Motion has been properly made by Ms. Blackshear. May I have a second? Seconded by Vice Chair Rouse. Any discussion? No discussion. I know you by approving this motion by saying aye, raising your right hand. Aye. Any opposes? No opposes. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Griffin Stewart.
Thank you.
Board members, business agenda I, education elements, strategic plan, partnership. This is an action item presented by our superintendent, Dr. Matt Bullock.
Thank you, Chair Harris, Vice
Proceed.
Chair Rouse, board members, our community constituents present and virtually. Good evening, and it is our pleasure to present to the board for action tonight our lead partner for our strategic planning, plus our instructional blueprint support for the FY 2021, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25 school years, and culminating with school year 25, 26. Before I begin reviewing, we always want to revisit who we are. And we are a school district with a vision. And that vision is to generate excellence. One team, one goal. And how will we do that? We'll do it by inspiring. We'll do it by challenging and preparing all of our students to compete globally. On January the 8th, we invited Education Elements to present their strategic planning process to the school board and to the community. However, prior to that presentation, Education Elements presented its platform as well as its program to the superintendent as well as the entire senior cabinet, including our Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations, Executive Director of Programs, Federal Programs, Executive Director of Operations, Director of HR and Communications, and our Director of special education. When we began our 90-day plan here in the school district, we began with the understanding that we would begin by visiting many of our different communities and getting feedback and build relationships through these stakeholder sessions. In those stakeholder sessions and building relationships with the community and gaining input, we would use that input to develop a coherent plan to address the specific needs of our students, families, and our staff. Using these insights, we also understood that we would gain information from one-to-one meetings. We've had meetings with individuals who are in our official offices, such as the mayor. We've had small group conversations. We've also begun to analyze data from the school system at the elementary, middle, and high, as well as look at our human resources, our facilities, our operations. And through all of this data analysis, we're refining and clarifying our vision. And by clarifying our vision, that will lead us to a multi-year strategic plan that will lead the district to achieve its vision of generating excellence. As a core component of this strategic plan, we know that we need to also develop an instructional blueprint, which will include what will we do for our students? How will we develop our teachers? What resources do we need to put in place, such as iReady Math? What initiatives do we need to begin? What is the timeline for those initiatives? And how will it be supported? To date, these are the community inputs that we have addressed and have gathered input from our community. We've been to DD Memorial Baptist Church, Mount Zion Baptist Church. We've gained input from community and staff at Stone Creek Baptist Church. Tonight, we gained valuable input from District 1 here at the Senior Citizen Center. We've also had focus groups with our faculty at JES. We've had focus group with our faculty at Twiggs County Middle High School. Also, we've had a focus group discussion with our central office staff, and we have begun a full district review led in part by the Georgia Department of Education, and that process has begun with our self-assessment and will continue throughout the fall. We are still gathering input. In upcoming stakeholder events, we'll have student focus groups from our summer school students starting on tomorrow and then leading to Thursday. We'll also have another community stakeholder focus session at Old Marion Baptist Church, and we'll end our community and stakeholder input for the beginning of our strategic planning session at Stone Creek Baptist Church. In this strategic planning process, there are two stages. Stage one is to create the strategic plan. And in creating that strategic plan, it again will gather all of the input that I have described to you. We'll study and analyze that input to determine exactly what are those overarching goals, the overarching themes that are coming forward from our staff, from our community, from our leaders, from our students. What are those overarching goals? And then we'll begin planning the tools and tactics, providing opportunities to define for those future students in the district through that strategic plan. The second stage, after we develop that strategic plan, will be to develop our instructional blueprint. That instructional blueprint will create clarity and coherence. Our principals, our teachers, our counselors have talked to us and spoken to us about needing clarity, needing coherence with materials, with protocols, with initiatives, with resources. And by observing classrooms, speaking to learners and students and families, we'll continue to build a deep understanding of how our teaching and learning is approached across the district. And from there, we'll engage in a series of facilitated design, feedback, and strategy sessions to create a guiding instructional blueprint that we will then put into practice. So first, creating that strategic plan. All of those feedback sessions that I just mentioned to you, we'll synthesize all of that learning, all of the data that we're gathering from the Department of Education. We'll synthesize all of that learning to develop that strategic plan. And then we'll develop for you, board members, a readout and an external facing summary that will help to communicate those 5-year strategic plan objectives, as well as the project plan to bring those strategies to life. Second, we will then begin the development of that instructional blueprint. In that instructional blueprint, we'll assess the current state of teaching. We're literally going into classrooms. We're literally going to be observing teachers in practice. We're literally going to be looking at the professional development, talking with students across the district so that we can understand exactly what we are using, how we are using, and why we are getting the results that we're getting, so that we can design protocols, rituals, practices, and identify materials to get the results that we desire. This is just a visual example of the process of developing the strategic plan. First, all of the community feedback sessions, of which I've mentioned many to you on tonight, and many of you have attended several. After analyzing all of that community feedback, we'll then begin smaller community planning sessions with smaller groups based on those trends that come forward out of all of that data and all of those data analyses. After we have those smaller group meetings and develop initiatives and develop performance measures, know when we are successful, we'll then design for you a prioritization, something that can be presented to our community so that they'll know exactly what we're working on, exactly what the goals are, exactly what those initiatives are, and how we will measure our success. And we will then also be asking for individuals to join us in our pursuit of excellence. And from there, we'll then work with our partner to develop project management plans. Each one of our senior cabinet members will become a project manager, and we'll develop project management plans which will clarify specific initiatives, timelines, dates, and deliverables that will go out through the remaining of this year and the next 4 years to come. This image gives you a picture of some of the ways that we're going to measure our success. Again, not only will we talk about the goals and identify the initiatives, we want to make sure that we have performance measures that we can utilize to measure when we are successful. Not only will those performance measures be annually, we'll have performance measures along the way to ensure that we're going to get the success that we desire. This is just an example of the project management plan that education elements, along with our senior cabinet and those planning teams, will develop for each one of those goals and initiatives. It's detailed, as you can tell. It talks about who owns this plans. Where are the professional development markers going to be? What standards does this plan address? Do we need any technology to support, etc.? This is an example of the level of detail that our partner will assist us in developing with each of our goals and initiatives. This is an example of the monitoring system. Not only do we want to say what we're going to do, we're going to monitor and measure our actions and our action steps. Here you'll see to the left where it identifies the specific initiative. And there in the center, it will clarify what those performance measures are. And then to the far right, you'll see what our target is, what our actual is, and what our target is. And we will measure ourselves against those targets each year for the next 5 years in our strategic plan. And this level of detail is for the project manager herself or himself. It helps him to understand exactly what he should be working on each month, each week, and then to be able to report out to myself, to senior cabinet, and ultimately to the board and community if asked, are we on track? That we have articulated our actions, we've clarified the steps that we need to take. Where are we in the process? This level of detail will be developed and provided with the assistance of our lead partner. This is the methodology that will be utilized that I've shown. I've shown you the photographs as one form of visualizing it. This is just another form of visualizing that strategic planning methodology. First, to plan and align based on all of the feedback that we're gathering from our stakeholders and ultimately the Board of Education as well. Then to set the foundation in place, to review and summarize that data, to analyze the data, find the key points, find the large themes and the large goals, identify initiatives, and then begin developing action steps. Present that plan, design it specifically for Twiggs County, and present that plan to our board and to our community so they know exactly the work that we're going to do. And then finally, to begin working on the implementation of those plans that the project manager will have with the examples of the samples that I've shown you, the monitoring plan, the step-by-step, month-by-month action steps, as well as the individualized project progress reports that the project manager will be able to provide for us. That will be the development of our instructional blueprint. After we have our strategic plan done, then we will begin developing our instructional blueprint. And that instructional blueprint will actually begin by us assessing our current state of teaching and learning in the district. And we've already started that process. We've already had 2 meetings with our principals, our assistant principals, our counselor, our family facilitator, senior cabinet. We've already had 2 meetings to assess our current state of teaching and learning. And we're beginning to look closely into all of those leadership impacts, things in terms of the capacity of our teachers, professional learning across the district. And the purpose of this is to develop a coherent instructional blueprint so that we are clear and we're consistent in how we are moving forward to meet the needs of our students, and not just our students. We can't meet their needs until we also meet the needs of our staff. This instructional blueprint, and this is just a sample from another district of one document of a instructional blueprint. It helps to clarify our instructional expectations. It also helps to create some common language so that we all know what the high school teachers will know what is happening at the elementary. The elementary teachers will know the language at the middle school, and so on. It will drive decision-making. If it's not in our strategic plan, then why will we be investing in anything that's not there? So it will drive our decision-making. It will drive our instructional incentives, as well as our resource allocation and our staffing. And again, it'll streamline our PD for our teachers. It'll streamline our PD for our leaders so that we can focus on building their capacity to meet the needs of the students. That instructional blueprint helps us to understand our current state. It will help us, again, to align our purpose and our roles. It will help us to validate and make adjustments when necessary. It will give us those strategic priorities and best practices, help us identify the resources that we need, and we'll, again, get feedback from our stakeholder groups whenever we need to modify that blueprint. And finally, by adopting this instructional blueprint, we will then also be able to determine those actions, and our owners, our project management owners, will be able to steer their way through this adoption of this instructional blueprint. We met as a senior cabinet with the two main individuals that we wanted, and companies, organizations that we wanted to consider for leading us with our strategic planning process, which is GSBA, as well as educational elements. Through multiple meetings and reviewing those processes, we decided unanimously that we felt that Education Elements is the right partner for us at this time. Because of the national experience, also having exposure to different states, being in over 1,000 schools and building blueprints as well as strategic plans in over 1,000 schools, we'll be able to glean from all of those experiences, those insights and perspectives. Also, we also know how important it is not only to have a plan, but to build the capacity of the people who are going to have to carry out the plan. So by focusing on professional development of our leaders and our teachers, we'll be able to carry out those practices, protocols, and meet all of those objectives that we're seeking in our long-term strategic plan. We'll leave this process with professional and customized work. Our plan will meet our community's identity. It will be unique and original and personalized and unique for our community. It will not be cookie cutter. It will be specifically developed for us and meet our community needs. And when we implement this plan, we will have the support of our partners as well to ensure that that instructional blueprint is in place so that we can continue to improve our team's ability to implement, to monitor and measure those initiatives. And again, because we're working with an organization that focuses on personalization and customization, we will have an opportunity to co-create the plan, and when we need to make adjustments, we can make adjustments. We already know that we will be including GSBA and doing the focus group for you, our board members, so that we can continue to learn your aspirations. We can continue to find out what your goals are for the school district and make sure that those goals and aspirations are built into our plan as well. To the left, you see all of the many different touch points. The actual face-to-face, actual virtual touch points of our lead partner, and to the right, all of the deliverables. The first portion of this process, of the strategic planning process, will not cost more than $48,000. And the second phase, which is the development of that instructional blueprint, will not cost more than $50,650. Are there any questions? Mr. Chair, I recommend that the Board of Education approve our selection of Education Elements as our lead partner in the development of our strategic plan, and then moving on to the development of our instructional blueprint for the Twiggs County Public Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Buller, for a thorough presentation on the Education Element Strategic Plan Partnership. At this time, Board, we've heard the recommendation from our superintendent. We've heard his thorough presentation. May I have a motion to accept and approve superintendent's recommendation for Educational Element Strategic Plan Partnership?
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. King. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Rouse. Any discussion? No further discussion. I'll know you by accepting and approving this motion to purchase Education Element Strategic Plan Partnership by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. Any opposes? No opposes. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Bullard. At this time, we have Business Agenda Item J, District Request Action Item by Dr. Bullard.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, board members, we do have a request for the use of our facilities coming up the weekend of June the 25th, 26th, and 27th. DeQuarius Denard and his foundation, Denard Difference, is asking the use of our facilities for a 7-on-7 football game which involves travel football teams, high school, middle school age travel football teams, where they'll be competing for prizes that will be given to those teams to encourage them to continue to pursue their athletic pursuits, followed by a celebrity basketball game that following Saturday on June the 26th in our high school gym, and then followed by a softball game with his NFL friends against some of our community members in a game of softball. They are asking for the use of our facilities. Of course, we know that Mr. Denard is homegrown as a part of this community. His family is a part of this community. He wanted to bring his camp, of which he did a few weeks ago, back to Twiggs County. It had been gone from Twiggs for several years. Now he wants to re-engage again with the Denard Difference Weekend and bring the full suite of weekend activities back to Twiggs County as well. We're in support of him doing so, of course, him being one of the success stories of our community and of our school system, being able to support our young men and our young women who are interested in their athletic pursuits, to have that role model right there in front of them, one that they can touch, talk to, also learn from. And also to get the community involved by contributing, purchasing snacks, purchasing food. He did purchase a facility in Macon, Georgia, in order to build the educational competency of students in the area and in the region, as well as to build this traveling football team, of which he hopes he can motivate students to continue to pursue their academics as he did and go on to college, and hopefully, who knows, we may have another Mr. Denard one day. So we are in support of Mr. Denard and his foundation returning to Twiggs County on the 25th with his 7-on-7 football team competition, on Saturday with the celebrity basketball game, And on Sunday, with the celebrity versus the communities, Saturday is the celebrity basketball game, and Sunday is the softball game with the NFL stars as well against the community members. We ask for your approval.
Board members, we've heard Dr. Bullard's recommendation for district request. I have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion been properly made by Ms. Stokes. May I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been properly seconded by Ms. King. Any discussion? No further discussion. I'll know you by saying aye, raising your hand if you approve this motion. Aye. Aye. Any opposes? No opposes. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Bullard. Board members, as we have attended to business agenda items A through J, have I omitted anything, or is there any further discussion or questions at this time? Dr. Bullard, as we have exhausted our business agenda for tonight, items A through J, have I omitted anything at this time?
Mr. Chair, we have thoroughly covered the business agenda for tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Bullard. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Properly made by Ms. Blackshear. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Stokes. Any discussion? No discussion? I'll know you by approving this motion by raising your hand and saying aye. Any opposes? No opposes. That motion carries unanimously. Stakeholders, at this time, the board will adjourn our business agenda and attend to executive session. We will return with discussion of personnel matters, and we will publicly announce those discussions as we make approvals or not approvals when we return to public session. All right? Thank you. Good evening again, Tweaks County stakeholders, faculty, and staff. Thank you so much for your patience as we deliberated in executive session. At this time, I will ask for a motion to exit executive session and enter into public session.
So moved.
Properly made by Ms. Blackshear. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Mr. Rouse. Any discussion? No discussion? I'll know you by supporting this motion by saying aye, raising your hand. Aye. Any opposes? No opposes. That motion carries unanimously. That motion was to bring us from executive session into public session. We shared discussions tonight in reference to new hires, personnel matters presented by Dr. Mac Bullard. We are pleased to introduce to some and present as we transfer appointments for others. Board, if it pleases you, Dr. Bullard, if it pleases you, I would like to move these in two seamless transitions, and we'll start with the motion of transfer of appointments. Two seamless transitions from transfer of appointments to new hires, appointments and new hires. Dr. Bullard, sidebar just a moment. Faculty, staff, community, stakeholders, understanding is the best policy. Thank you, Dr. Bullard. Thank you, Mr. Mike. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation for transfer appointments. Transfer of appointment, Ms. Juliet Newton and Ms. Jessica Wimberly. May I have a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for transfer of appointment?
I move that motion.
Motion's been properly made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Any opposes? No opposes. Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to accept new hires to our district. Ms. Jennifer Williams, academic coach secondary. Ms. Shayla Young, district graduation coach. Ms. Miriam Ortez Rosado, Spanish teacher, Tweets County High School. Michael Warren, middle school math, Tweets County Middle School math. And then Miss Judith Leonard, AP, secondary Tweets County Middle High School. At this time, I entertain a motion to accept all of the superintendent's recommendations for new hires.
So moved.
Motion is properly made by Ms. King. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Rouse. Any discussion? Any discussion or concerns? No discussion or concerns. I'll know you by saying aye, raising your hand if you accept this motion. Any opposes? No opposes. That motion carries unanimously. Dr. Bullock, have I omitted any of your superintendent recommendations to our district?
Mr. Chair, you have not omitted any of the recommendations. Thank you, Board, for your support of bringing these excellent candidates to our school district. I'd like for Ms. Shayla Young, who's in the audience tonight, to stand and be recognized as our new district graduation coach. As you can see, Principal Harris is all excited and ready for you to get there and start to work, as we are as well. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Ms. Young. Congratulations to all of our new employees, and congratulations to those who have been transferred from one building to another or from one position to another. Board members, do we have any discussion or questions tonight before we adjourn? Dr. Bullard?
All minds are clear.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, I entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Motion has been properly and gladly made by Ms. Stokes. May I have a second?
Second.
Second that motion, Ms. King. Any discussion? No discussion? I'll know you by saying aye. Raise your hand if you approve that motion. Aye. Any opposes? No opposes. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Thank you, Dr. Bullock, for a thorough board meeting. Thank you, board, for lending your ears, your hearts, and your minds as we make great decisions for Tweets County Public School System. Thank you. Good night.